I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journey work of the stars. So wrote the American poet Walt Whitman. When the natural world and the realm of the senses conspire, our sense of wonder soars. This magical orb, this earth, this wonder of wonders, holds within its embrace some special places, pinpoints on the planet where nature reveals its true majesty. This is the land of dawn, the Serengeti. Upon the grassy plains of this African savanna, extraordinary creatures first saw the light of day. A descendant of the dinosaurs, virtually unchanged for 190 million years. A mammal that grows to a height of 18 feet. A gregarious water bird. And a recent arrival in the animal world, man, a two-legged, tool-using member of the primate family. It was on this savanna that human life evolved. Man has probably been here ever since the ancestors of humankind left the forests of Central Africa. What drew them is what draws people still, millions of years later, an abundance of animal life. The Maasai tribe call this vast plain Serengeti, or Great Open Space. One reason many creatures survived here over the ages is that these tropics did not endure the extreme climate changes of the Ice Age. It was East Africa's reliable water supply and abundant vegetation that supported the wildlife. The Masai Mara, Kenya's portion of the Serengeti ecosystem, is home for almost 100 species of mammals, reptiles and amphibians, and more than 300 kinds of birds. Many people come to East Africa to see the Big Five: African elephants, black rhinoceroses, African buffaloes, lions, and leopards.
It was not like a herd of cattle or of sheep, because it was wild.
Wrote aviatrix Beryl Markham in her autobiography, West with the Night.
And it carried with it the stamp of wilderness and the freedom of a land still more a possession of nature than of men. To see 10,000 animals untamed and not branded with the symbols of human commerce is like scaling an unconquered mountain for the first time, or like finding a forest without roads or footpaths or the blemish of an axe.
Each summer, thousands of zebras and more than 1 million wildebeest migrate north into the Masai Mara. This annual spectacle is one of the greatest shows on Earth. Because of their numbers, the wildebeest often take center stage. With its bull-like head and horse-like flanks, the wildebeest, or white-bearded gnu, is a strange-looking attraction. Once described as something made out of spare parts by a committee, the wildebeest travels about 1,000 miles each year in search of water and green grass. In January, when the monsoons blow in from the northeast, the wildebeest leave the Masai Mara, following rain clouds south into neighboring Tanzania. With them come fellow travelers. After the fellow travelers come the predators. And after the predators, scavengers. Each year, thousands of wildebeest die crossing the Mara River as they head south to the Serengeti. It is the calcium-rich grass on the plains that lures them, even at the risk of their lives. The Serengeti Plain stretches between Lake Victoria and the Crater Lake Highlands. Exactly where the animals go depends on changing conditions of weather, terrain, and food supply. Hyenas and flamingos, predator and prey alike, need water. Each animal in its own way must solve life's great riddle, how to eat without being eaten. Leopards are known to kill for the sake of killing, and are able to adapt to many kinds of habitat. And like man, they tend to mate for life. Omnivorous man is at the top of the food chain. The Maasai were once nomadic, following wild herds across the Serengeti. According to Maasai traditions, Enkai, the creator, gave grass, animals, and milk to his people. Although the Maasai consider it their right to hunt all the wildlife in their region, they are natural conservationists and usually hunt only buffalo and elands. The Maasai's coexistence with wild animals is part of their heritage. Unfortunately, some of the Serengeti species are threatened by poachers. Protecting the wildlife of the Serengeti will enable future generations to witness the wonder of life in this land of Genesis. To behold this great migration is to share a timeless experience unchanged since the dawn of man. Their towering majesty makes these mountains seem the epitome of permanence. The Himalayas are a sanctuary where people can almost reach the gods, and where the gods commune with the stars. This range, which contains the tallest peaks on Earth, changes in many ways. Erosion continually wears them down. Every year, the river systems that originate in the Himalayas carry massive amounts of mountain rock, forest debris, and soil into the Indian Ocean. The Himalayas also rise. An ongoing collision between two great continental masses created these mountains, and the collision continues today. As the northward-moving Indo-Australian plate smashes the Eurasian plate like a giant fist, the Himalayas rise about half an inch each year. The roof of the world. That's what the ancient Persians called the Himalayas. These ranges include all of the summits on Earth that are more than 5 miles high. Mount Everest, which is 5 1/2 miles above sea level, actually touches the jet stream, which frequently blows snow off its peak. The people of Nepal recount a legend about the creation of the Himalayas.
In the beginning of time, mountains had wings. The mountains flew around the world as they pleased. But the Nepalese did not have enough water. So Indra, the god of rain, turned the wings into clouds. No longer able to fly, the Himalayas were earthbound. The clouds became a source of rain, which flowed down the mountains into streams and rivers that nourished the Nepalese.
Many who live in the Himalayas believe that these mountains are the abode of sacred beings. They are a place where immortals and mortals alike may meditate and seek wise counsel. For some, the mountains themselves are divinities. The Tibetan name for Mount Everest, Chomolungma, means goddess mother of the world. The Nepalese call her Sagarmatha, meaning whose head touches the sky. In the Himalayan region, several of the world's great religions flourish, including Hinduism and Buddhism. In Kathmandu, Nepal's major city, the wisdom of the great religions of the Himalayas is evident. In no other city do so many temples represent so many different faiths. Religious tolerance, the recognition that each faith is a path toward the same transcendent summit, is the guiding spirit of those who live in Kathmandu. According to an ancient Sanskrit proverb, 100 divine epochs would not suffice to describe all the marvels of the Himalaya. What is it about these mountains that inspires such awe? Their transcendent heights? The ability of a cloud to make a mountain vanish, suggesting the mysteries beyond perception? The contrast between snow and shadow, light and dark? The challenge of a mountain trail? The knowledge that in an instant a false step or an avalanche can end one's life? Ultimately, perhaps, it is the awesome scale of the Himalayas that puts life into perspective. According to an Indian saying, just as the dew is dried by the morning sun, so man's cares disappear at the sight of the Himalaya. Ironically, the Himalayas, which inspire a sense that humanity is one with nature, have also become a symbol for man's conquest of nature. The world's highest mountain was measured by British surveyors in 1852. They named it for a surveyor general, Sir George Everest. From then on, ascending its 29,000-foot summit became the dream of mountaineers everywhere.
One must conquer, achieve, get to the top. One must know the end to be convinced that one can win the end, to know there's no dream that mustn't be dared.
Wrote George Mallory, who, when asked why he attempted to climb Everest, responded, "Because it is there." It was the Sherpas, an indigenous people of Tibet, who made it possible for Westerners to climb Mount Everest. As mountain guides, they contributed great skill at high altitudes, strength that enabled them to shoulder huge loads, and selfless devotion to the welfare of those with whom they traveled. For a century, many mountaineers, Sherpas, and Westerners attempted to climb the goddess mother of the world. Many died in the attempt. Finally, on May 29, 1953, a New Zealander, Edmund Hillary, and a Sherpa, Norgay Tenzing, set out for the summit from their camp at 28,000 feet.
It was first class going,
Wrote Hillary in his diary.
and as I was feeling very well, we made steady progress. Tenzing had me on a tight rope all the time, and we moved throughout one at a time.
At last, after a slow climb up firm frozen snow, they reached the top.
Tenzing and I shook hands, and then Tenzing threw his arms around my shoulders. It was a great moment.
After Hillary and Tenzing, thousands of trekkers and mountaineers ascended the slopes of Mount Everest and other Himalayan peaks. In need of fuel, these expeditions soon stripped the mountain forests, exposing the soil to severe erosion. Realizing that his conquest of Everest had accelerated the degradation of the Himalayan ecosystem, Hillary took measures to protect the mountain environment. Working with Sherpas and the government of Nepal, with the assistance of the government of New Zealand, Hillary established a 450-square-mile park in 1976. 3 of the world's highest mountains stand within the boundaries of Sagarmatha National Park.
Man and nature need each other, and by hurting one, we wound the other. There is so much that needs to be done to halt the destruction of our world environment. My remaining hope is the amazing adaptability of human beings and the astonishing resilience of nature itself.
Some splendid, some austere, magnificent treasures all. These miracles of creation come to us as gifts, not to possess nor to exploit, but to hold in trust for countless generations to follow. May these wonders of nature inspire such awe, such wisdom as we require.